That's not a that's ta-da, that's real life. Are we not on social media now? Like, oh shit, he got Lambos. Oh shit, he got this, he got that.
Up,
are you shutting down your life because you got a Lambo?
You said too much. Are you going to be telling your kid, oh, yeah, you can swear, because as an adult, you're going to swear anyway. So a 6-year-old is just going to swear. A 6-year-old is just going to be exposed to sex and exposed to these things because eventually, as an adult, you're going to get exposed to them.
Yes.
No, age-appropriate shit.
For that stage in life.
Yeah, I'm like, it needs to be focused on one thing. It's very fundamental from 0 to 6 years old or 0 to 7 years old that they are structured.
I'm gonna let you land.
Your fucking point of view doesn't make any fucking sense.
I mean, I have a child, so I'm gonna speak.
Okay, and I've raised children. I've raised children.
I'm raising my child, so I'm telling you from a parent. I give him all the information that I know he can consume.
So when you're watching TV and there's a sex scene coming on, you're not even gonna cut it off?
Let me land. I'm telling you, I give him all the information because one, I don't know how long I'm gonna be here. That's one. I can be gone tomorrow. I'm giving you all the information. I'm not hiding information. When I listen to music, I don't put on the filter version. My son knows every curse word, every bad thing with something on TV. He knows it. He knows what to do and what to say at this age. In the beginning, everybody's kind of like, no. But in his school, they praise him because when kids come in like, oh, fuck, this and that, he knows at 3, 4, nah, that's a bad word. My son knows when there's a cup of alcohol on the floor, he knows that it's alcohol. At 3 or 4, he knows like
that's so different than
because not everyone's kids the same way.
No, because
you expose your child to the right things, right?
Give me a second.
So they know. But wait,
give me one second.
By what you're saying, there are other kids though. If you were to do the exact same thing you're doing with your son, see how he works? It's not gonna work.
Yes, it is true. Okay, it is true. Let me just land. Let me just say this one thing, and I will shut the fuck up, and the two of you guys can talk. The same way 3 kids can live in a household, have the same parenting style with first child, middle child, last child.
That's not the same.
Yes, it is because when kids are exposed to a parent,
you have no kids. That's not the same style.
I'm telling you from.
2 different parenting styles.
A kid being exposed to a parent who's an alcoholic. The first child's going to receive it differently. The second child's going to receive it differently. But they've all been exposed to an alcoholic parent. And one will refuse to drink alcohol. The other will be like, yo, I'm down for alcohol. Fuck it, whatever. Yes. You're being exposed to an alcoholic parent. But why all 3 kids choose different routes of what they saw? Being exposed to something doesn't mean you're ready for it. You have to understand your child. How are you raising your child? You're understanding your child.
You understand him, but I'm saying if another parent did the exact same thing you're doing to their kid at the same age as Chase, it's going to be received differently. They're going to react differently. They're going to be the kid in the school. Fuck. And those are probably parents that say, yo, don't say that. That's a bad word. You can't say that. Every kid is different. That's why I'm saying, though, just because you're okay with exposing your son to all these things and he receives it great and he understands it because you don't know when you're going to be here. And I get that. You can't say that the way you're doing it, every kid should be exposed that same way, though.
I'm saying... the way I grew up is kind of like when you hide, and that's with any kid. This is a child nature. When you hide things, yo, I'm keeping you away from this. I'm keeping you away from this. A natural kid instinct, they're gonna gravitate to it more. So when you expose them to it, like, yo, this is what it is. I'm not hiding this from you. This is what it is. This is what it becomes like. All right, cool. I know what this is. I know what this is. And I'm telling you, I've had me and a couple of our friends had babies all at the same time. And I'm like, yo, when I said, yo, this is what, oh, you listen to that music, you doing this, or you taking them there, you doing that, or you speak to them like this, they thought I was nuts. And I'm like, yo, you know what? I'm about like, I want to give you as much. The reason why we make bad decisions sometimes is because we don't have all the information. I don't know how much his little brain can compute now. I'm not going to underestimate his brain. So I'm going to give him all the information at the time that God blesses me to give him. So when it comes time for him to make this decision, he has all the information to make the decision. Now, if he makes a bad decision from there, that's on him. But you're not going to be ignorant and make a decision based off like,
he is a child.
There's no such thing as giving them too much information.
That is okay. You only have one kid. I've seen dynamics of one child, 3 children, 2 kids. I'm telling you right now, Cav. I'm telling you right now. When you have that second kid, you're not gonna move the same way. I promise you.
Of course I'm not, because the mistakes that I made with him, which I don't think giving him the information is a mistake, because
but I don't think.
I will probably be like, because there's a lot of things, like I give him a lot of information, but there's some things you hold back. With the second kid, I might not hold back at all.
Your child's going to need therapy. I promise you.
I feel like everybody needs therapy. How I grew up, I wish the information I'm giving my son, I wish I had then.
There's a lot of stuff we didn't know growing up. And we're like, well, just because for knowing that I didn't know it back then, and I'm happy I know it now. But guess what? Some of the information they gave us, when you sit down and do the research, it's like, technically, you didn't give me the full information that I needed to make the proper decision. And part of it was fear, because they didn't want us to make the mistake, not understanding. Point. But the thing is, you're withholding information, and then I get to
there's an age appropriate explanation.
But this is what I'm telling you. Prime example. No, this is what I'm telling you. Prime example. I get my first period. Yes, I'm young, 10 or 11. I'm not saying my parents should have went full nitty gritty details about sex, how you actually get pregnant. But if they gave me at least some ounce of proper information,
if they told you the real shit, you would have been better off. Not that because you
not just about being better off, but just understanding why I get my period. What is the purpose of this? I'm 11. Why the fuck am I bleeding?
You know what my mom used to lie to me and tell me where babies come from? She said, "Go in your room, pray, and then a baby pops up." I went to school believing that. And they kicked me out of the class because I kept disrupting when they was trying to teach sex ed when I was a child. I'm like, no, you got to pray. And that's where babies come from. In the 1880s, when they thought like, okay, you're sick, let's bleed you out. Back then, that was a great idea. We didn't have the information. But then it was like, yo, bleeding somebody out will kill him. You as years go on, you get information. The more information you have, the better decision.
Not just information. They actually were doing research and realized, oops, actually we can't be doing that.
Yes,
that's what we need to do.
But
it wasn't just information that poop fell out the sky. No, our parents knew where babies came from.
And what they did, they didn't give you the information.
But the thing is, if I'm asking at 5 years old where babies came from,
I'm telling you,
they're gonna tell me in the best way possible at that age. That's age appropriate. But when I hit 11, 12. Or before my first period, I'm going to sit down and have that conversation
I'm gonna tell you
the first time.
I'm gonna tell you the first time my ideology got tested.
This is the last thing we're gonna talk about. I don't want to hear it no more.
I mean, when my mother passed away, CJ just turned 3. Everybody was like, no, don't bring him to the funeral. It's gonna mess him up. It's gonna this and that. No, don't bring him.
People told you no.
That was the masses was like, yo, no, it's just he remembers her because they was always together. This and that, and I'm like. I have to walk him through this process, even if he doesn't understand it, there's something that's going to prompt, that's going to make him think like, okay, there was some type of closure. So he's at the funeral. He doesn't know what's going on. He's running around, this and that. And, he walks up to me at turning 3. He says, my grandma's sleeping in the church. This is a church they go through. And I said, I told you, grandma's sick, grandma passed away, this and that. He was like, oh, okay, we just come see her next week. And I said, I don't think we're going to see her next week. Grandma's going away, grandma's going to heaven. He has no concept of this. My son is 5 now. And I was driving him to school, and he just got sad, and he's kind of like, Dad, I'm feeling sad today. I'm like, why? He's like, yeah, I don't want you to go where grandma is. And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, I don't want you to pass away. He's like, why did God take grandma? So at this young age, his brain understands like, okay, grandma's gone. And he understands death. And it's like, why would I take that versus the way when my grandma passed, I was fucked up. I'm like, yo, where the hell she go? Like
my great nephew, he's 4, he'll be 5. When my grandfather passed this past July, he was aware to a certain extent. He was already aware because he had asked his grandmother on his dad's side randomly, where's your mom? Like, he be randomly asking people, where's your mother? Where's your father? I'm like, bro, if one of my parents wasn't here, he just hit me with that question, I'll probably boo-hoo cry. Because, especially if they didn't pass away around the time he was alive.
Yeah.
But he asked his grandmother, where's your mom? Over the phone. And she goes, oh, my mom, she's sleeping. She's been sleeping for a long time, you know. And he goes, up in heaven? And she goes, yeah. Then my grandfather passed away. He's well aware. And he's like, Papa's not here no more. We're like, no, he's not. You know, he wasn't feeling well. He passed away.
You're giving him the information.
But the way you're telling, the way you're speaking to us, you're making it seem as though you're giving them the nitty gritty at this age.
Grandma died of cancer. Grandma, he said, what's cancer? I said, it's a disease. I'm giving it, even though it's too much for him to process, I'm saying, oh, but why did God take grandma? Grandma had cancer. I'm not like, he got pancreatic cancer, but I'm like, grandma had cancer. It's a disease that killed her. Remember, I told you she was losing weight. She was getting skinny. I'm over giving him the information. And now he could probably drive you to where she's buried. And he's cool with it. I'm giving him, and he knows, okay, a 5-year-old knowing what cancer is. Oh, cancer's this. They're looking for a cure. You expose them to different things. They've been doing this to black people all year, withholding information. Why are you going to withhold information from a kid? You don't know how this kid brain works.
We assume because they're receiving this information at this. Wait,
my best friend gets gunned down at 11.
Okay, and you are living through, whether it's subconscious or not, you are living through that trauma. No one's normal after that.
I went to his house the next day and rang the doorbell and thought he was gonna come outside.
But your experience of that death is different. Someone took your friend's life. It wasn't traumatic. Your friend had a disease and you guys knew and it was slowly taken away.
Or they were dying of old age. Like, those are two different things.
But someone gunned down your friend. That's a different type of trauma. I'm saying that's bad in a sense because I'm basing it off of my therapist told me. She said, you go through different stages in life where certain things that you never really cared for because it wasn't the time for it. Because you start to realize, okay, I'm getting older now. So at 28, 29, that's when it really hit me like, well, obviously I'm getting older. That means my parents are aging. So eventually they will not be here. So I was already thinking like, okay, eventually there's going to be a point in time that my parents will not be here. I fear it, but I know what's going to happen. My therapist said that is very normal. She gave me the name for it. She's like, as you get older, when you start hitting your 30s, your 40s, that's when you start to realize, okay, grandparents, great aunts, uncles, whoever start to pass away. Literally a week ago, my grand aunt passed away. Then June, my grandfather passed away. Now I just got a call from my mother early this morning that I guess it's an aunt or uncle. I'm not close to them like that. They pass. People are passing away.
Do you know how crazy it is to when your mom dies and you go buy a plot? Now you know you can't buy a plot with just one plot. You have to buy 2 plots.
Yeah.
And they're like, you gotta buy 2 plots. I'm confused. You want an extra couple thousand out of me? Cool, let me buy 2 plots. And then you go get a headstone and you make it all nice. You put your mom's picture on it and this and that. Date of birth, date of death. And they're like, hey, you want to get a jump start? Throw your name on there, this and that. That's what they asked me.
I ain't put my name on nothing yet.
That's what you know why they asked me that? It's because in my head, I'm kind of like, well, that's not for me because I'm not going anytime soon. But that's the reality of it.
It was a thing I was watching where a parent was picking out a casket. They lost their child and the casket was little. And I was confused. I said, wait a minute. I thought only old people die. And he said, no, children do pass away. He's like, that's not the outcome parents want because we are taught this circle of life is we're supposed to be burying our parents, even though mentally we don't want to, but we're supposed to be burying our parents, not the parents burying their child. But my father did explain it. He didn't give me full nitty-gritty details, but he gave me to understand, like, no, not just old people
When was the first time somebody close to you passed away?
My grandmother.
Younger. Like, your age. Like, somebody where you're like, oh, shit, this could have been me.
This girl, I know she got shot.
What age?
Killed. I was, like, 22.
What about you?
High school.
So that's why we're on 2 different.
But no. Are you talking about like somebody close in our age or some just death experience?
Somebody that you know that I'm talking to you right now.
I was mad young.
Talking to you right now, and then we're of the same age. We're like a couple years apart. I'm speaking to you now, and then tomorrow I never see you again for the duration of our life. A lot of people don't experience that.
Get off this conversation.
Yes,
but I will say it will be a privilege to be able to do that and not cause trauma. That's what I'm gonna say.
I mean, life.
I want you to prove us wrong. I literally do, because I know what that. I know I'm very active in my godkids' life,
and that they're dealing with death now, and they don't know how to take it. Yeah, they're like smoking heavily now, and they never smoked before. They're being addicted to things. They're losing focus on school. They're like F this, F that, and they're dealing with losing friends.
Yeah, maybe I should start writing a book. Because I feel like
you are talking from a child who's only 5. You have no idea. Like when they say 0 to 6 or 0 to 7 is formidable years, whatever happens now, they're gonna carry that into their adult life. All right. So my thing is, you're planting all these things, but you don't know what's gonna come of all these planting.
I see it. You see when it sprouts. There's a certain way to do it. What are you talking about?
Because the way you might be doing, you think it's right. It may actually be
the worst way. You might be causing a lot of trauma that your child has to go to therapy for in their adult life.
So I will say from 1 to 5, I got it right so far. If there was a report card from 1 to 5, he's good.
Everyone's different though.
I'd rather let's strip it down to like street shit.
Everybody who's experienced street shit has trauma.
Okay, can I speak so I can explain what I'm trying to explain?
You've been speaking a lot, and nothing's transcribing.
You're not from that world. So
oh my God, shut the fuck up, because you don't even know what world I'm from.
Just because you saw it.
I know by you don't need to do the thing to understand the thing.
I'm not saying you have to do it. Seeing it and being from it is two different things. I can see war, but I never experienced war. That's what I'm telling you. The level of trauma you exposed to and the level of information that you have to combat the trauma. If you have mad trauma with no information, obviously that's more detrimental. But if you have a lot of information, you have trauma, which I have, you can kind of level it out. You can explain certain things. That's what I'm saying.
This is why we're going to transition into education, right? Educating ourselves on politics.
Yes, but let me finish saying what I'm saying.
You're not saying it. Okay, so I'm sorry. I'm gonna give you the platform to explain it to the audience, but it's not computing to me because
it's not computing because you're not from that world. My goodness, you don't understand.
Shut the fuck up about this. I'm not from something.
Now you're being ignorant right now.
No, I'm not being ignorant. You're being ignorant, thinking that one thing is gonna apply across the board.
I'm not saying it's applying across the board. I never said it was going to apply across the board.
You said you should write a book because you figured out how to parent. Because you've seen the results from a 5-year-old.
From my experiences and from what I'm giving, yes.
That child. Every child is different. They retain differently. Obviously, they experience differently.
What works for you works for you. So I'm just telling the story that works for me.
Have your last rebuttal so we can move on.
Nah, we good. You got it.
Because I'm not from that world, so
you're not. That's what I'm saying.
You're talking to a brick wall. But
it's not. I'm talking to a brick wall.
Transitioning from politics into education.
If Obama comes in this room and he's telling you something, and he's like, "Yo, yeah, this worked for me," you're gonna be like, "Oh no, that don't work for me," because I told my nieces this, and my nieces went. That's what I'm saying.
I'm not saying we all made the.
What we're saying is in regards to the age.
We're putting limits on children. We got to stop doing that.
No one's putting a limitation on your child.
She's saying, "Oh, you're overexposure. You're telling
you
them
are."
Yes, and my 5-year-old knows more than the common 5-year-old.
Are you done?
No, I'm not sitting there saying like, "Yo, here's porn. There's this and that." Obviously not. But does he know? If he walks across somebody's room and he sees porn on the TV, can he identify and know, all right, cool, I know this is porn. I'm not supposed to be watching this? Yes. My child knows what's what. He knows when I'm swearing or I'm listening to something that's vulgar. He knows that, he does. All right, cool. None of y'all have kids, so y'all won't understand it until y'all have kids.
Were we not kids at one point in our lives? Do we not understand what a child needs and doesn't need?
The way we grew,
that fucking excuse about you don't have children, so you can't understand.
Are
you fucking high?
That's different.
Oh my God!
I don't care how many kids you raise until it's yours. It's not the same. Until you have and you said you're not gonna have kids, so it's not the same.
So a psychologist who's never experienced trauma can't tell you about your traumas?
No.
Oh
no.
my God. I'm fucking done.
Answer my question.
I'm fucking done.
I need us to simmer down. It has taken left.
I'm fucking done.
Let's simmer down.
We're done.
Can a black struggle?
We are done with this conversation. We are done with this conversation.
That's all I need to answer.
We are done with this conversation.
See how she holding
We
it?
are done with this
crazy.
conversation.
I see why they call you back. That's a good grip right there.
So as I was saying, but we're gonna transition into education and get back on track with Black History.
You gotta answer the question.
What
color? What?
Oh my God. Okay.
Your therapist.
This is your episode. Go ahead. I'm done. I'm really done.
Your therapist.
I'm done.
Your therapist.
I'm done. I'm done. I'm done.
You know her therapist is black.
Why do you have a black therapist?
I'm done.
If you want to be childish about it, see, if you have more information, you want to be the childish about it. Why do you have a black therapist?
Are we going to get back to the topic, or are we just
because they're more relatable?
Thing? Are we going to get back to the topic?
Why don't you have a white therapist? 80% of the therapist is white. Why don't you have a white therapist?
Because I was fortunate to find a black therapist.
Why did you go looking?
It was recommended. I didn't even look. I will call my sister right now. She's a therapist. Okay. She works with this lady. We were having a conversation. She said, "Oh my God, I know you want to be a therapist. I have a great therapist for you."
No white lady can tell you about your trauma because their experiences is different. But I don't give a fuck how much. I don't give a fuck how much education you have. If you're not of my descent, you can't really get down to the nitty gritty of it.
Aside from trauma that is relatable in blackness, unfortunately, you have therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists, whatever you want to call them. Their study is trauma. It doesn't matter the race or the ethnicity. It is trauma.
You got a gynecologist?
Their focus is. Let me finish.
Is your gynecologist white or black?
I let you She is white.
My primary is white.
That's crazy.
Last time I checked, vagina is vagina.
The black vagina and the white vagina isn't the same.
Have you been inside a white vagina?
Yes.
Anyways.
It's not the same.
Shut up. Their focus is on trauma. Yes, you want me. I prefer to have a black woman because I felt more comfortable with a black woman. She would understand my strife as a black woman. But you can't relate that in the same sense as being a parent because I feel like a lot of people like to use that as a trigger word. Oh, you're not a parent, you want to understand. Yes, I may not understand because how you raise your child and the child that you're raising is totally different from the other kid I may encounter with. It may be different from my niece, nephew, cousin, whatever. But at the same time, there's certain things that are literally common sense. Aside from you teaching your kid and planting the seeds that they need so they can be a great individual when you're no longer on this earth, great. But there's certain things that parents will do to their child not realizing that you are creating trauma. And I'm dealing with high school students because there's a lot of things that they have. It's already been set in their formative years. And it's hard to break those habits when they're 17, 18, in 11th and 12th grade. And we're, as an educator, being expected to change these habits. And don't get me wrong, there's a possibility that you can make those changes. But it's really hard to make the change when I only see this kid maybe an hour out of the 6 hours they're in here. And then the rest of their time they're at home. So whatever habit I may be trying to fix or rewire, it gets fucked up.
Let's get specific.
Back home.
Let's get specific. Because I feel like you're talking about something specific but generalizing it.
I'm not being specific about anything. There's a lot of things.
Okay, so drugs, like weed. Let's bring that because obviously that's something that is,
it's common, but it's more vaping, if anything, now.
You're being vague with the. It could be anything from sexual assault to whatever. Like even when he was younger, he used to be like, "Oh, I told him like, no, this is your penis. This is this. This is that. This is that." And they'd be like, "Why are you telling this little kid what his penis is?" Because he needs to know.
That is obvious. I read somewhere where they said you're supposed to tell your kid what their private parts are. You're supposed to.
Is that not information?
You're just identifying body parts.
That's fine, which you're supposed to because you don't let somebody else tell them what their private part is. That's how you avoid sexual assault and rape and all that other stuff.
When we were growing up, what was it called? It was given every name besides for what it was.
But when a child's sexually abused, that's when they're like, my thing, or like whatever. They give it another name. And it's just like, that doesn't apply in court.
Thank you.
That has nothing to do with what you just said about bringing a child to a damn funeral.
information.
That is saying. Oh my God. I don't want to have this conversation.
Okay, this could be on a different podcast because I'm pretty sure we recorded an hour and a half of this already.
Not as good.
No, this is done. Like this conversation, this is the pod. Like we're not going back to Black History. We're not.
I guess we just created Black History. But back to what I was saying though. My statement on the sense of people saying, "Oh, you're not a parent." There's a lot of things you may not get to experience yet, and maybe that person doesn't want to be a parent. But just because you didn't biologically give birth to a child doesn't mean that you can't have some parenting skills. You're a godparent.
You can have
your
skills,
aunt.
But
just because I didn't push out a baby doesn't mean I'm not a parent.
That's not
you
true.
Ain't shit.
That's not true.
Oh but God, there's parents out here who aren't parents.
That is true also. But
so why can't that can be true? But me being around kids, raising kids, being responsible for kids at one point in my life is not
you could be
credible.
Responsible for 100 kids. Until you push out your own kid and feel what that feels like when you recreate yourself, when there's your DNA is in something else, those 100 kids will feel different from that kid.
You're so dumb. You're
How
dumb.
am I dumb?
And I'm talking to.
I'm telling you, until you procreate in your DNA, you're making yourself over. When you're looking at your baby picture, like, oh shit, this nigga or female looks like me, nigga. It's a different type of bond than, oh, I raised my sister's kid. It don't matter. You could raise 19 of your sister's kids. You have one child for yourself. That dynamic is completely different.
What about parents that adopt? Are they not parents because they didn't push
they're
them
parents,
out?
but it's not the same. If they don't physically come from you, there is something that intertwines you with the child.
Right now
I'm not
me off. Yes,
this is real shit.
No.
I have a child. I had a kid, and I'm telling you, from before, I'm like, yo, I don't get how you niggas will go into it. Like, I'm a very selfish person. Nigga, I will stand in front of a bullet and take and be okay with it. When you recreate yourself, because that's essentially what you're doing, that's your legacy, nothing else matters. I can raise 100 kids, nothing will ever amount to the connection of having one yourself, and until you have it, you won't understand. And I tell any parent that had a kid, you can have this conversation with them. You can be whatever, you foster parent, adopt this kid. I had this kid since there was a baby. I found this baby in trash can. I raised them till they 17. Until you have your own kid, till that kid comes out of your body, it's a bond that's...
You're speaking from the emotional bond connection piece because you procreated yourself. But speaking as a woman who experienced it but lost it within a matter of months, you can't tell me because I didn't actually come to full term to having my baby that, oh, you will never be able to da-da-da-da. I can still raise another child. I can still adopt a child. The only connection I will not have with the child that I adopted or raised is the fact that they didn't get to be grown in my womb. I didn't get to push him out or have to get cut up and damn near be at death's door to give this child life.
Let me tell you this.
Aside from that, there's parents who never pushed out a baby are 10 times better than the ones who pushed out a kid.
Yes, but
10 times better.
But imagine if that 10 times better parent pushed out their own kid.
And maybe they can't. Some people can't
but
have
if they
kids.
Can't, so there's a different level of connection. I don't care if you had a kid where you raised from 0 to 19. You can have a great bond, great connection with him, but it will never be like the one you push out.
3 different women have told me they pushed out their kid and felt nothing until they were 6 months old. They had no emotional connection with their child. So you're not telling me that because you are a parent, you automatically have a connection. You don't. Same way if you was to adopt a kid and you build an emotional connection, it's the same way as a parent who pushed out the kid.
I can't... If somebody that went through this is telling you,
shut the fuck up, because who gives a fuck if you gave birth to a kid? If you had a kid that's biologically yours, that does not negate the other parents who can't do it.
You're only talking about the experience of giving birth and that connection. Aside from that, you can still have an emotional connection with a child that I did not birth. And I want that child, and I still gonna. But you're making it seem as though, oh, because I didn't push out this kid, my connection will never be the same as someone who pushed their baby out. What are you saying?
I'm giving
the only
you.
piece that's missing is me carrying that baby
I'm
for
giving
9
you
months.
the same.
That's it.
I'm giving you the same example that you're saying. I'm not saying somebody else. I'm saying if you raised a kid from 0 to 18, and whatever bond that is, when you push out that baby yourself, that bond, it don't, not saying you can't have it, you can have a deep bond, but the bond you're gonna have with the baby that you was in there talking,
So
this and that, and
to
you
us
put,
the ones
it's
that don't
going
have that
to
bond,
be,
that
it
pushed out their
happens.
kids.
It happens. That's why your argument doesn't make no sense.
Yours doesn't make any sense because you're saying if I don't push out a kid, I will never understand the bond that I'm gonna have with the kid.
You won't.
I can adopt. I can do whatever. I can raise other kids. I won't understand it.
You don't know how it feels to be shot. I can tell you how it feels to be shot. I got shot 8 times. This is how it feels. You like, I seen it happen. I seen him die from being shot, but you can never feel it until the shells hit you and you feel the blunt trauma of being shot.
What you're not understanding, and you keep skipping over it. You're not understanding the part I'm saying is, I get the emotional part, the emotional connection. Supposedly, most women go, because some women can be pregnant for 9 months and don't feel that connection until the baby
Surrogates don't feel connection to their fucking kids.
Because that's not, you're surrogate. That's what I'm saying. You're surrogate.
No, you guys,
if you're and even that happens when the surrogate has the baby, they don't want to give the baby up, but it's in your contract to give it up. I would get up too. When you're that wrong, I'd get up too. Yeah, get a mitt.
I came to get a mitt. I'm not.
Yeah, get a mitt.
I want to go freshen my breath so I can yap some more. The emotional.
You're potting right now, and I realize that. That's why I'm no longer gonna argue.
I'm being realistic. There's just another gear that you physically hit that you can't hit. It's just in our human like existence. Like you can't hit this.
You can't tell me. Wait a minute, but this is where I'm saying like. You're basing it because, yes, you had a child. There's certain gears that shift, that switch up when your child gets here. But you have to understand, the parents who could not have kids or been told they're barren or whatever can't have kids, and they're going through the process of adoption.
That's the second best option.
Anyways, like I was saying, they get the baby or the child that they wanted, regardless. They get this baby. A lot of them, it's emotional for them. That's why when they're doing the process of adoption, they want to make sure that the parent that's giving up the child for adoption is not a parent that's going to come back and be like, oh, I want my kid back, because it's detrimental. I've seen stories, I've seen shows where I get the show, it can happen where, oh, I want my kid back. My kid was given up for adoption. I didn't want to give it up for adoption. And the parents that have raised that child, they're disheveled. They're like emotionally distraught, like, no, this is my kid, this is my son, like, this is my child. Yes, I didn't birth him, but he's not biologically mine. He doesn't carry my bloodline.
They seek out their parent.
Some do, some don't. I dealt with a student who naturally was connected to me, and upon hearing her story, and she literally wrote me a letter, and I still have this letter, her explaining to me and asking herself, why doesn't her mother have her? Knowing that they have other siblings, she has other siblings or whatever, why the mother's not in her life when someone else is raising her. And honestly, I'm not going to lie. Like, it pulled at my heartstrings. And it's like, yo, if I could afford to adopt a child at the moment when this was being happening, I would have. But
so you think you would have the bond with that student as if you carried the term? You think whatever level that you think you would have that level of whatever when
you put in your mind that you want to be a parent, regardless of how you're getting that child, it doesn't fucking matter. You're still gonna love that child. You're still gonna take care of that child. Your argument is only basing it off of, oh, I carried this child, they're connected to my fucking uterus, they're fucking connected to the womb, and boop, the baby comes out. You're only basing it off of that part.
Until you go through that.
I don't need to go through shit.
I promise you.
I don't need to go through
because
shit.
You're probably the closest one out of all of us in this room that will probably experience that, and then when you do, I will accept your apology.
I'm never apologizing to that point.
If you had carried to term, it didn't matter how many kids you raised, the bond that you have with that kid, whether the kid loved you or not, especially as a mother. I'm saying this as a dad, which is crazy. As a mother, you would have brought that kid to. I don't care if you raise 100 of your students. The bond that you have with that kid, you can't never. People say they don't have favorite kids, whatever. If you don't push none of them kids out, guess who's your favorite kid? The one you had. I don't give if that kid is the biggest fuck up in the world, that is still your favorite kid. There's just a tier of shit that. There's a level that you unlock when you have your own child. I'm just saying. There's nothing like having your own. Somebody buying you a car and you going and buy your own car, yeah, I can like this car, but I got this myself. You could do that with anything. That's all I'm saying. You can't compare I raised my aunt's kids or my sister's kids to I'm raising my own child, because there's limitations to raising that. There's certain things you can't do to your sister's kid that you can do to your kid.
Like what?
Like what?
If I'm raising somebody's kid, if I'm a step parent, I'm not ever putting hands on them. Okay, I'm just saying me. I'm not ever putting hands. Yeah, I'm not. And if she comes up to you like, yo, I don't want you hitting my kid anymore, what are you going to say?
My sister never said that because I was raising her fucking kids. She was like, beat their fucking ass if they don't listen.
Yes. But what if she comes up to you and say, hey, I don't want you hitting my kid anymore? You can't be like, I'm still going to hit him.
We'll never know because it's already been done.
So now you're being ignorant. I'm saying if she says that, then what?
Well, since I can't do those things because I have them majority of the time. Yeah. We're working all the time.
Yeah.
I put them on the bus. I get them ready for school.
And I don't want you hitting my kid anymore.
Listen, I pick them up.
Just answer the question.
I'm answering it.
You're giving me a soliloquy of what you do.
You've been doing this whole pod.
Spare the rod, not the child.
I pick them up from school. I make sure they do their homework. I make sure they eat. I make sure they do all these things.
That's great.
Right?
I don't want you hitting my kid anymore.
So if you don't want me to hit your kids because I have them 90% of the time, you can find someone else to raise your kids.
And that's fine. And if she does that, then what do you do? You know where you can't do that? With your own child.
What if your kid says, I don't want you to hit me no more, I'm going to call the cops?
My kid? Give him the phone. Call the cops. All
right, Eminem.
No, it's not Eminem. I put belt to ass on my kid. But do you think I'm going to let somebody else put belt to ass?
Well, every kid I've raised, I put belt to ass.
DCF has entered the chat.
Every kid that you raise, but if the parent is like, yo, I don't want you doing this.
Then they can find someone else to watch their kid.
And that's what I'm saying. If you have your own kid.
Okay, you put belt to ass to your son and your son calls the cop. Guess who else has your son?
Nobody.
The fucking foster care.
Nobody.
Because your ass ain't gonna have
Nobody's
access to
having.
If you are abusing your child,
that's not abusing.
They take your child.
I'm disciplining my child.
Belt to ass is discipline?
Yes.
Okay. It's abuse.
It's not abuse. It's abuse to you. That's
abuse
my child.
in the law. It's abuse to the law.
Respect to the law. Respect to the law.
I got where I was to. Nigga, you think I care about
You think I didn't grow up with belt to ass and everything else in between?
Is that abuse?
Yeah, it is abuse. It's very much an abuse. It's very traumatic.
You came out a great woman off of that belt to ass.
If I was to had to call my mom, call the cops on my mother, I would have been taken away.
And then
so the same way if CJ was to call the cops on you for putting belt to ass, he would be taken away to foster care. And then CPS would be on your fucking ass the day you decide to get CJ back. I promise you,
there is nothing in this world that will take that child away from me. And if they
Sounds good.
If anybody, look, people know.
Okay, then you're going to go to jail. Like if you're going to fight the cops for taking a kid, you're going to jail.
Never going to happen. It's never gonna happen. My child will never be taken away from me.
You'll be taken away from CJ.
It's never gonna happen. There's nothing in this world that is gonna take my child away from me.
And I'm just over this conversation.
I'm not potted. Anybody that knows me knows.
I'm done with this conversation. I would take a bullet for my godkids and my nieces. Not even a question. I wouldn't even think twice about it.
You got it, big dog.
And I'm not their mom. But you tell them otherwise. Actually,
it's just, and you work with kids. You're gonna see the shift.
You out?
You're gonna see the shift. Now plug it in.
Okay, I'm gonna because we're talking about
Black History Month.
No, we're not. We're arguing to the point of like frustration, and I need you to confirm something for me. I'm gonna put you on speaker. Is that okay? Okay. Lexi, can... wait.
Hold on.
Did I raise you and your sisters? Lexi. Explain to Cap. No. He says parenting, you have to physically have a child.
Hold on. Can I ask Lexi a question? Lexi, can I ask you a question? How you doing? I'm Cav.
Hello.
Lexi, hey, who's your mother? What's your mother's name?
Maria.
Okay.
He literally asked me if I've ever parented, and I said yes. And we looked at the definition, and I have parented. And he's trying to say now he's moving the goalposts.
I'm not moving the goalposts.
Did you physically have a child? When you guys have this conversation with your mom,
as far as like disciplining, having to understand our point of view,
you're the disciplinary.
Also trying to adapt with us as we're growing.
Yeah.
You were with us every stage of our lives.
But you're not her mother, correct?
You nurtured us. You're not our parent, but you had a hand in parenting.
You wanted to be
Lexi,
your
wait,
mother
because
or
he
not?
won't shut the fuck up. He won't shut the fuck up.
Nah,
Go ahead.
Lexi just proved my point.
Please. What I think Cav is saying, because I've also tried to make this argument. So, parenting is like the responsibilities that come with it and the stresses that come with it. It's not the same when you are able to enter and exit at any point. You don't like really grasp, or you're not really able to feel what it feels like to have that responsibility 24/7, 365 days a year. So it's like you get an ounce of it, but you don't really grasp, or you don't have the whole entire experience because you're able to enter and exit as you please.
Lexi, since you have a child, I was telling her, when you have nieces and nephews, yes, there's a certain type of love that is irreplaceable. But when you have a child yourself, there's another tier that gets unlocked that you're like, oh, this is mine. This is like, there's something that you can only explain if you go through it.
Yeah. I get where both of you guys are coming from.
That's all I was saying.
Okay.
Lexi, thank you, Lexi. I
that's
like
why
Lexi.
I called. I have 3 nieces. She's the only one with a kid. I don't agree with you, Lexi, but I'll let you rock. Just because Lexi said it does not mean I agree with Lexi.
Call anybody else with a kid.
You can't get anything when Cav's talking because he won't shut the fuck up.
No,
he won't shut the fuck up.
The thing is, you keep.
I also don't think that's a fair conversation because you and Peggy don't like have kids.
What?
So
that's what I've been
That's
saying
why I
the
called
entire
you
time.
specifically, because my argument was
Thank you,
can
people.
parent and you can have the same emotional bond with somebody you didn't give birth to.
Right, bro.
I truly feel that way with my godkids and my nieces.
Technically, that is true because parents, there are people that don't actually physically give birth to children and have that connection. IVF.
It's not. It's
like
a connection, but it's not the same connection.
See?
No, but you can't say it's not the same connection because you don't know what that other person is feeling. So if that person is describing how they feel about a child, you can find similarities in that, you can't say that that's less parenting because you have a grander experience than physically having a child.
That's what I was trying to explain.
No, hold on.
Wait, Lexi.
Let me give you my rebuttal.
Shut the fuck up, and I want you to finish your sentence. I want you to finish.
Finished.
She's not done because she was in the middle of talking before you cut her off.
I mean, you
shut
cut her
up.
off. You cut her off. You're screaming.
By saying parenting, are you trying to say that a mother's parenting is better than a father's parenting because a mother physically gave birth to a child?
No, I'm just saying.
No,
I'm not saying
exactly. So now you're contradicting your argument because you're saying you haven't actually physically had a child, but technically a man has never physically had a child.
What are you talking about?
A woman has. Right. It's the connection, the emotional connection you have with that child that makes you think that your connection is grander, right?
Repeat the question.
You're saying that your emotional connection to a child is different than an emotional connection to an aunt that's saying that she parented or had a hand in parenting a child, correct?
Yes.
Because if you have a child.
Yes,
but you didn't physically have that child. So what is the difference between somebody that's going through surrogacy and somebody physically else had the child but has had a hand in the raising from birth until a current state?
So
how is that different?
When a man says he had a child, that means I fertilized your egg and went through this process
all you did.
Okay, that's what you say, but 2 things can be true. Like you can't. 2
things can be true now.
You can't. No.
What you're saying is, Jessica cannot understand the gravity of parenting or cannot say that she has parented because she did not physically give birth to a child.
Hold on, let me ask.
She has not.
Okay, pause. 1 second.
And neither have you. Just because it's your blood doesn't. Her nieces and nephews and whoever down the line are her blood. What is the difference between a man's connection with a child versus my aunt's connection with her nieces and nephews?
Okay, can your aunt and her have a kid together? Can she give your aunt anything to have this kid?
I'm not her aunt.
I'm just saying, whatever match you're trying to make, whatever. It's my chromosomes that need to match up and do all that shit. It's my sperm. I need to fertilize your eggs.
Scientifically, my aunt's DNA, her genetics is also in my blood because her mother gave birth to my mother.
Yes, but
it's in my DNA.
You can have 19 women's DNA. Yes. You still can't create a child. Like, what are we talking about?
But we're talking about parenting. We're not talking about creation. No, we're talking about parenting.
We are talking about
that she is unable to
what I was saying. She can't understand. Okay, let me say this last thing. So, if she is not able to conceive a child, right? She meets somebody, they go adopt a child at 0. They raise this child from 0 to 10. Perfect child. They love their child, this and that. And then one day she just gets pregnant and have a child. You don't think the bond of her having that child versus the child she raised is going to be a little bit different?
No, because it's about emotional connection.
You're crazy. If you think the child that she conceived, that she holds in her stomach, that she pushes out after she said you can't have a child and she has her own child, you don't think there's a deeper bond in that? That's crazy. It seemed like you was right.
Both point of views. I just feel like, Jessica, you don't understand the gravity of parenting, but you understand the emotional connection of parenting.
Mm-hmm.
Those are two different things. Again, it takes parents a while. Some parents a while to emotionally connect to a child.
Yeah, I was one of those.
But the physical and the responsibility of a child, nobody's going to understand that unless you have parented.
Unless you had a child 24/7.
So now picture
that is your responsibility.
Yeah.
You can't lose a job. You can't wake up and not think of them first. That aspect.
So so picture if you push this child out and you have that connection and you're
pushing a child out.
That has
emotional
procreating
that's not
has
fair to say.
Anybody can be a parent. Somebody could walk up off the street and be a parent.
You literally
I'm saying
to cut this because you literally said I don't know what it is to be a parent because I don't have a child. Now you're saying anybody could be a parent.
You never had a child, so there's a certain bond that you're never gonna get until you have the child yourself.
Bonding.
I'm talking about emotional connection. You're talking about emotional bond. You're talking about the connection.
Well, that's subjective. That's subjective. That's subjective because the time you had the baby, who you had the baby with, when you had the baby, what your state of mind is. There's a lot of variables at play. But if we was to just level it on a perfect playing field, like everything, all the scenarios was the same.
And in no situation is that ever true.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Peggy, what did I say? I said there's another level when you have the kid yourself.
You guys are both trying to save your arguments, and I think you guys are both right, but you guys are going about it the wrong way.
There's another level when you have the child yourself. You can't tell me you raising your nephew and you raising your own child is the same type of love. It's not true.
My mom, that's the thing. Like, my mom trusted the family and the people she had around her.
She's the overseer.
To parent us in the same manner that she parents us.
Your mother was the overseer.
We weren't receiving different types of parenting.
How about this? Can you recollect? Can you tell the story of when your sister wasn't listening to your mom? Listen, wait, pause. I need you to listen to this. When your sister decided not to listen to your mom, what happened?
She called you.
For what? To discipline?
To step in, yeah.
You're the disciplinary. That's all it is. What happened? Her mother called you.
Yes, but she's the mom. Why did she discipline her kid?
Because I'm giving you the authority to do it.
No, her mom was capable of doing it. She was physically there. It wasn't like her mom was at work.
No.
Her mom could have easily done the disciplining, but she gave it to me. Why? Because I used to parent them and I had more autonomy over how they react to certain things.
Yo, if you want that, you got it.
We fared Jessica.
You got it.
She was like.
All right, mommy.
Like when you're a mom and dad, right? And like the mom goes and grabs the dad.
Lexi.
Like, yo, I need you to step in because they're not listening to me. We didn't fear my mom. We feared Jessica.
So I was their dad. So I wasn't their mom. I was their dad.
Lexi. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You was the
okay, so does that negate what you do as a dad? Lexi, thank you so much for your opinion. For your
and as a
rebuttal.
woman, you should know that.
I appreciate
there's
you for being honest.
There's other things that happen.
Even though your rebuttal was
You're
not
removed.
against
You're removed from that.
You cannot shut the fuck up for 2 seconds so somebody can
because
say
for a woman, it's like you don't know the natural, the regular woman
and you just keep talking. You're potting. Shut the fuck up.
You know this postpartum? She's removed from it.
Lexi,
that happens.
I will call you later. I love you. Thank you so much.
Yo, for a female,
bye. We're not solving shit because he's saying nothing.
No,
nothing.
for a female, you know nothing about womanhood. It's crazy to me.
Guys,
you're talking about,
this was supposed to be about Black History
for 5
Month.
Months, she's removed.
And now she's removed. We're done. We are not doing Black History Month.
You're bugging out, bro. You need to do.
We're gonna have to make other plans for the other announcements that we've had for this pod episode. But thank you so much for watching.
Yeah, watch, please.
And let us know what you think of the conversation.
Peace.
Bye.